Hello, welcome back to JJ's Bakehouse. So today I am going to make a drip cake for you and show you right from making the ganache all the way through to the end how you make that drip on a cake. I've been asked this loads of times, so I thought I would get it done now. So my cake is in the fridge at this moment and it's coming right down to temperature because it really needs to be cold. So a really important part of this is to have a very cold cake. And that way then, when you put the drip over the top, the cold of the surface of the cake there is going to start setting that chocolate, and that is what holds that drip in place. So really important to get those cakes into the fridge. Right, now I don't do ratios. I found that a 1-to-1 ratio on this was just a little bit too loose for me. I didn't like it. So I use 150 grams of chocolate. I've got milk chocolate here, milk or dark chocolate. This tutorial is not for white chocolate in any way. It completely handles differently. The ratio on that is 3-to-1 and I'm not looking at that one today. So I've got the milk chocolate here and I've got 150 grams. Make sure it's proper milk chocolate, not just the cheap stuff. Because the cocoa solids won't be high enough in it and it won't work properly. And then, so 150 grams of that, and then I've got 130 mils or 130 grams, I actually weighed mine on the scales, of double cream. So I've got a separate bowl so that you can see, right? And I'm just going to pop mine onto the stove just here. That is my double cream and we want to bring that to the boil. So I'm going to pop my chocolate chips into there and here it comes. Right, and as soon as it comes to boil, straight over the top, there we go, of the chocolate. Don't let it cool in any way. Just push those chocolate chips in and then set it to one side. Now the reason that I'm using chocolate chips is because it needs to be a small amount so that you don't have to be playing around with mixing it up too much. If you're using a bar of chocolate and you've got it in chunks, don't just take those chunks and put those in. Make sure you chop them up into smaller pieces like chocolate chips, because otherwise you're going to keep having to put this in and out of the microwave to make sure that it is actually melted properly. So if you're going to make this in advance, that's ideal and brilliant, and you can leave it on the side, then bring it up to room temperature, a couple of hours, and it's going to be the way you want it. But I'm trying to do this tutorial for you today, so I want to hurry things along, and also I tend to forget to make my ganache in advance. So I don't put it into the fridge. The reason that once I've made it I don't put it in the fridge, for two reasons. One, it's hot and it can't change the temperature of my fridge, so that's a definite no-no. And the other reason is that when you pop it into the fridge, the outside parts of the chocolate there will start to get colder, and then when you stir it you could end up with little chunks in your chocolate, so I don't recommend that at all. So what I do is I get myself a water bath. So I've got some ice in a bag, it can just be ice, and I've put water on the top, and once this has melted, I am then going to put it in a jug and pop it into here, and we're going to stir it around. Now if you're doing white chocolate hates this. I am going to do another tutorial for a white chocolate ganache in the future, but it doesn't like being stirred quite as much, so I wouldn't use this method for that. But with this milk chocolate and dark chocolate, it's more forgiving and it allows me to do it. Right, now let's have a look. There we go. Lovely and melted. So you don't want to vigorously go at this because you don't want to be putting lots of air in it. So just as if you were folding, just gently go round, little bit of a go in the middle, and it feels like you're going to be there for ages, but it does come together. So just keep going and it will start to thicken and you'll start feeling it thickening up. So when you do go round, to make sure it's not really vigorous. Don't want air in this. It's melted now, so there's no hurry. Keep going round. Here we go. Now start seeing, there, start seeing it coming together. There we are. And then you instantly, it pops to the top and you've got that lovely shine of the ganache on there. So lift it up and look through and make sure that you don't have lumps coming through this. If you do have any lumps, just pop this into the microwave for about 5 seconds and take it back out again. And if that's not completed it, 5 to 10 seconds, don't put it in for too long. We've done most of the work, but don't worry if it's not completely melted, because you can pop it in to the microwave, but as I said, just in really low bursts. Mine is all melted, I'm happy with that. Right, so now feel the outside of your bowls. You know that you've got heat there, you can feel that heat. So I'm going to take this and pop it into my jug. This is the jug I measured out my cream in, so I'm going to have to give this a little bit of a stir up. There we go, don't waste it. And that to the side. Right, just get that last little bit of cream into there. Okay, now you can see the motion of my knife going around there, my spatula. See, you don't want anything more than that, not vigorously, because you're going to lose that sheen once you start putting air into it. Over my water bath. I've done it with a jug because I've got a handle on the side if you needed to pop away quickly, but don't let any water get inside. I've just pushed it down so that my chocolate is completely in there, and then pop this in and just leave it hanging like that for about 5 minutes. We're going to do this, and about every minute we're just going to stir around the outside and leave it, and then after another minute we're going to do it again, and that way we're not going to be putting a lot of air into it, we're not messing with it too much, can keep stirring at it, and this way we're going to crash that temperature down quite quickly and in a safe way, and then we're going to pop it on the side. So I am going to come back to you in 5 minutes when we've gone through this boring process of stirring it every minute. So I'll see you in a moment. Right then, that's my 5 minutes, and you should be able to tell that the consistency of this has changed. When I lift up, I've got ribbons, and that is exactly the way we want our drip to be. This is the consistency we want it. So you fill the sides, there's no heat there anymore, it's more room temperature, and that is the way we want. So because I've stirred it, I do want to let this settle for a moment. So I am going to put some cling film on it and leave it for around about 15-20 minutes just to settle down, and then we can do our drip. So see how quick that was then, just to bring that temperature right down. Here we go. Now sometimes, depending on the temperature outside, if it's warm where you are, leaving it on the side, then the consistency is going to stay like this, and this is exactly the way we want it to be. If it's particularly cold, then the environment is going to start making that come down more and more in temperature, and obviously the more that the temperature on the ganache crashes, the thicker and thicker it's going to get. So I'm going to leave this alone for 20 minutes, but if when we come back to it, it's thickened up a little bit too much, then it will pop into the microwave for about 3 seconds. That is it, just to loosen that back up again, and then we'll be able to work with it. So don't be scared if it gets too thick. We want a certain amount of thickness to it, because that's what's going to make it cling to the outer side of that cake as well. So we're just going to completely leave this alone, making sure that your cling film is touching the top here of your ganache, because we don't want the air hitting it and a film clinging to the top. So that's it. Go and grab yourself a rest for about 20 minutes and we will come back. Okay then, mine has been left for around about 20 minutes. So just going to peel off that skin off the top there, the cling film I should say. We haven't got a skin because we did that. Right, and then let's check the consistency of this. Absolutely perfect. Happy with that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pop it into a piping bag. Now I am going to attempt to do this drip cake in 2 ways for you on the same cake. Let's see how this goes. And then you can pick which way you think is easier. Right, I'm going to take all this, pour it into my piping bag. Right, don't want to waste any. Don't forget, if yours was not quite this consistency, where it singly goes down and forms ribbons, must form ribbons. If it doesn't form ribbons, it's not cold enough. Right, then you can burst it in the microwave for about 3 seconds, don't forget, if it's too stiff. Right. Now, the best way of finding out is, I'm going to cut the bottom of this. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn off my camera and I'm going to zoom you in to where I am so that you can see exactly where I'm cutting off, doing the drip test on the glass, and then when I do get my cake out you can see everything just up close. So you won't see me, you'll just hear me and hopefully just be able to see what I'm doing. So give me a second, I'll set this up and you'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing close up. Bear with me. Right, that's better. You can see a bit more of what I'm doing. Right, so here's my ganache. And I'm going to cut off on the bottom. So, I'm not taking, if you want really thick drips, you're going to go a little bit more, but I'm just cutting off around about that there on the end. So, then we're going to come to our glass. Right, you do it on the back so you can see. Come to the glass, across the top, and push. Across the top and push. Across the top, push. Across the top, push. Okay, let's do that again for you. Can you, oh, I don't know if you can see now. Right, I'm going to go across the top and push. Across the top and push. Now, how far you push is going to determine, when I say push, I'm kind of squeezing a little bit. But you're only squeezing, let me just put this down here. There we are. Right, here we go. Right, when I say push, you're only squeezing that tight, just putting a tiny bit of pressure on it. If you squeeze too hard, then too much is going to come out. But if you don't squeeze at all, then it's going to create a really small drip. So we're going to get our cake. Now you can keep going with glasses. And making sure that it is completely the way you want it to be. But for the moment, we're going to now concentrate on the cake. So I'm just going to go get my cake from the fridge. Do not get that cake from the fridge right until you need it. So now we do, I'll be back. Here's my cake. Well, it's not actually a cake. This is actually a polystyrene foam cake, which my dummy cake, which I have buttercreamed up for these purposes. So put your hands on the outside, making sure that it is cold, which it is. So, now I'm used to doing this front ways on for myself to see, and I'm going to try and reach over to see this. So I'm hoping that this is going to work well for me. Right, let's just twist the top of that, make sure I'm happy. Right, it keeps dripping, which is worrying. So bring it over the top of your cake, because this is where it's going to go anyway, okay? And come forward. Right, let me just position myself so that I can do this. Okay, come forward, right to the edge, and come across, and just let it flow. And come across, let it flow, come across, and let it flow. Okay? Again, if you've pulled away, we're going to go back again the same way. Just come forward to where you were, across, and let it. Now I'm not doing any pushing here. I am just keeping the, I'm just holding on to the bag. That is it. Now the longer that you leave it here, the longer that your drip is going to be. Okay, turn again, I'm going to do the same. I went away and I've come back forward, and there we go. There we are. And again, just let it go for as long as you want that drip to be. Obviously, if you're looking forward, you can see better. Come away and come back to the top. Here we are. And back and across. And let it drop. And back and across. And let it drop. And back and across. Last one, and let it drop. Okay, and then just come across the top of where you were and just put some ganache across the top of that there. There we go. And it will merge into one there because it's so wet, it will find its way. There we go. So there is your drip. Here we go, using the piping bag method. Now that is clutched onto the side because the cake is so cold. That's why it's so important to make sure that this cake is cold, okay? So I'm just gonna, this was the bit that panicked me. I'm gonna go in again and just do another couple here. So again, let it run across the top, take it all the way to where you were, and across, and let it go. Okay, and across, let it go, and across, and let it go. And then go back over towards the edge there. Never pushing too hard if you're not needing to, okay? Right, so that's one style of doing it, okay? Oh, I've actually marked the side of this one here slightly, so afterwards I'm going to show you how, if you do make a little mistake like that, I caught it on my jumper because I'm reaching over, how you can fix it as well so that you don't panic quite as much. Right, now my next style. Right, I am going to put quite a lot, squeeze quite a lot, and near the edges. Now I've actually squeezed that one and put it down. Got a spoon, and then take my spoon and from the back, pushing, not a thin amount, you need a big enough amount, and push over the top. Okay, so pulling back from the back to the front, okay, and then push it back to the front, drop it over the edge there and let it go. Now this gives you, I prefer this look. This is my go-to. If it looks like it's going a little bit solid, get some more. Put it on. I prefer this look because I think this looks more realistic as a drip. If something fell, it wouldn't fall in perfect drips, but it really is your choice. So again, we're going down over here, push from the back into the front, and we're coming down. There we go. Some of those have touched the bottom, but that's what can happen as well. So that there is, so you can see your two different styles. You've got your, where am I on the camera, just to make sure that I completely, no, I'm going the wrong way. Right, there we go. So that is your what I call a free fall drip, and that's what I call a forced drip. Okay, right, now we're going to do the top So we're just going to squeeze this across here, like this. And you can use your spoon. Now be very careful when you're coming towards the edges. With this one, you were kind of taking your spoon and pushing it in this motion. This time, you're coming like this because you don't want to push anything else over. And that's why we did that second layer initially, because that way then you're not going to go too far to the front. You're meeting up a lot further back. So if you haven't got enough, again, push the little bit, but as soon as you get to the edge, in a controlled manner. Here we go. Again, controlled all the way around. Covering all of the top. You could use your palette knife for this, but I'm just trying to use as little tools as possible for those that actually don't have them. See the way I'm just tapping that across the top there? I'm just teasing with it. It will just form itself back in again because it's wet. Okay? Right. And there we are. Now if you wanted a completely flat top here, that is going to, in a moment, I'll leave it, that's going to sort itself out there. Because it's wet, it's going to sink in to the top. But if you wanted to make sure, you can just get a palette knife dipped in boiling water and just skim it slightly, but being very careful of these edges. So, right, back to this side again. Now I really like this. I actually like this little drip effect that you get here where it pulls down to the bottom. It's stuck. Now the reason that has happened is because when I was pushing over, I actually pushed over a thick amount. So it was heavier, which meant that there was a heavier amount dragging it down. So if you didn't want this pooling effect to happen, when you push a smaller amount over. It's the same as the other side. You're in control of how much goes over. The more you push, the longer the drip. Okay? There we are then. I think that this is a lovely look on a very finished delicate cake. And I think this one is very good on those chocolate drips where you're really trying to give that wow impression of it's really dripped down. So that's the difference between the two. Now I am going to just boil up my kettle to fix this one here that is just slightly caught. And then we're going to just let this dry slightly, a little bit on the top, and then we're going to do that swirl across the top, which a lot of people like. So hang on 1 second and we will finish this off. Right then, I have a clean spoon and I've got some boiling water here in a jug. You can use your palette knife. I'm only using a spoon again, as I've said, just because I'm trying not to use too much equipment, just to show that you actually don't need to have all these tools to do this. Right, so you put your spoon into your hot water. It's just, nope, I'm too close, you can't, right, there we go. And hold it there. What you're trying to do is just heat up that spoon. So you can use anything that's metal. You use a knife. Right, take it out, give it a wipe, and then come to where your problem was, which is here, and then just touch in blobs. You will melt that chocolate across the top and it finds its own way of mixing back in again. There we go, that's absolutely perfect again now. So there we go. Just in blobs all the way down and it merges right in. See? So you can do that with any part if there's an issue, so don't panic. Right, now we're going to do this top part. Let's see how wet I am across the top here, that's fine. Right. If this was too hard across the top, again, use the spoon. Right, I'm going to take my spoon into the middle part and then not move. If you've got a turntable, brilliant. And then just turn the table. Moving the spoon outwards each time. Trying to do this slowly so you can see. Right. Just wipe this off again because I've lifted up for a reason. I don't want the edges to get too caught, so just place it back and then slowly to the outer side. You don't want anything to drip down. There we go. So that gives you that swirl across the top as well. That's not difficult, it's quite hard, quite easy. Now across the top here, I've lifted, which I don't know if you can see that. Where is it? It's here. So I'm now just gonna, again, heat on the back of my spoon. And there we go. Pushed it all back in. So there we are. There is the drip cake. So I know drip cakes are really daunting and quite scary, but if you do get that right consistency, making sure it drips down on there, make sure your cake is really cold, it isn't actually that bad. The chocolate is really important. Make sure your milk chocolate is proper milk chocolate. Just as a last part, if you've made a mistake on one of these drips and you think you have to start all over again, pop it in the fridge or into the freezer, wait for it to become solid, and then get a palette knife or a knife and just lift it and the chocolate will peel off, and then you can just peel it back and then just get some more ganache, put it across the top, allow it to flow down, it will do another one again, and then use your hot spoon just to blob for it all to join back up again. So here we have your 4 strip, and then you have your flowing drip. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope that you attempt your drip cakes and they work well for you, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.